Good morning and welcome from the Detroit Cafe in Harmony Park. This is DetroitUnspunTV. My name's Dave Lingholm. I'll be your tour guide for the next half hour. We've got a ton of stuff on the show today, so we'll get right to it. But we've got interviews with the Mayor of Hamtramck, a little bit of clarification on changes to Detroit Police Force from Chief Ralph Godby, and something that I'm personally looking forward to, an interview with Alexis Wiley about her special that she was doing called Redefining Detroit on Fox 2 News. So sit down, put that mouse away, and enjoy the next 30 minutes of Detroit Unspun TV. Cue the music, Jeremiah. Headlines this week. A postdoctoral researcher at Wayne State University has secured funding for his research on halting the spread of breast cancer. And we also learned from the Great Lakes IT Report story that brought that to us that the Department of Defense has a breast cancer research program. Who knew? We're also used to seeing Cobo Hall filled with sexy cars, powerful trucks, and the occasional golf cart during the North American International Auto Show. But when the show opens to the public in 8 days, Craftsman will be debuting the first lawn tractor ever to grace the floor of the auto show. Makes the farm boy in me kind of happy. But today is the funeral of the former publisher of the Michigan Chronicle, Sam Logan. As Carol Kane, the host of Michigan Matters, said, "In the often rough and tumble world of journalism, where legends are few, Mr. Logan kept his focus simply on helping. May you rest in peace, Mr. Logan." To keep up with more stories about Detroit's transformation, you can find us on Twitter at DetroitUnspun. Did you make any New Year's resolutions this year? Was one of them getting back in shape? Well, our next story should help get your wheels spinning about what you can do to make that resolution a reality.
It's the new year, and for most of us, that means wanting to lose some of those extra holiday pounds. Today we're at GoCycle in Royal Oak, Michigan, only indoor cycling fitness studio. We're going to be talking to Jimmy Wild. He's the owner, and he's going to tell us more about the program and how you can score your first class for free. So Jimmy, tell me a little bit more about indoor cycling, or as some people call it, spinning. Tell me more about the actual process.
All right, so indoor cycling, or some people know it as spinning, is pretty much a stationary bike that can be adjusted to anyone's body type. And the way that people get the workout, or the challenge, is by manipulating the resistance on the bike, mimicking that of climbing up a hill if you were outside, or actually going faster or slower depending on the terrain.
All right, Jimmy, so tell us a little bit about GoCycle and what your classes entail.
Well, GoCycle Studios is just a small, direct studio that all we do is indoor cycling classes. This isn't a full-fledged gym, fitness center. We have about 3 to 4 classes in the AM and 3 to 4 classes in the PM. So when people come in, they have about 60 minutes of a just straight indoor cycling class. But what we have is a little bit more of a specific, dare I say, higher quality of instructors and classes, hence the reason why this is the only thing that we do at GoCycle. We actually brag that all of our classes are multi-level, so whether it's your first time or you've been cycling for years, almost even competitively, you could absolutely get your full, most, actually really, really good workout at GoCycle. You build yourself an account, takes about 2 minutes total. Username and password, like a lot of websites nowadays have. And yeah, you get to choose whatever class you want, whatever instructor you want, whatever time of day you want, and that very first class is totally for free.
That's it for us today at GoCycle. Make sure to visit GoCycleStudios.com. Support this local business and get back into shape. This is Natalia Petrozak reporting from Royal Oak, Michigan. Back to you, Dave.
Did a really interesting special on redefining Detroit And I don't call it interesting because I'm in the last 3 minutes of it, but I do appreciate that. But tell me, Alexis, first of all, why was it important to do a special like this?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for inviting me here to talk with you about this. You know, I think for me, when I moved here, I'm originally from Los Angeles, and you hear all sorts of things about Detroit. And when I came here, I saw so many things that were so different from what you'd been hearing. So many things about, I mean, I saw so much, you know, vibrancy and so many cool things happening in the city, and so many people dedicated to bringing the city back and creating kind of a new path, you know. And I think when I saw that, I really wanted to do something that showcased some of what I was seeing. And I went in and I talked to my boss about it, and she was thinking the same thing. And it was just really perfect timing. And we worked really hard on it. I'm really glad with how it came out.
Well, and you ended up covering a lot of different things. I mean, different reporters obviously, you know, contributed, but you in particular did a lot with somebody named Kim Tandy and University Commons. And also a lot in the North End too. I guess, what about, you know, those interviews? Was there something that really stuck out in your mind about that particular one, or about the stories that Kim was telling you?
Well, for me, well, one, I think Kim is awesome, but for me, I think it was really the passion. You know, despite everything that everyone's saying about your city, you're determined to make your neighborhood better, and that's what Kim's really bringing. And she's got great vision, and there are a lot of people just like her, and that's what I think you see in every single piece we did. You know, people who say, yeah, you're hearing all these things about this city, but we are working to make a difference, and we've got big plans, and they're actually making things happen.
We hear a lot of comments, you know, on our own blog when we put out something that might be viewed a little bit too positively, you know, that why are you putting all that hope and change out there and all that good touchy-feely stuff when there's really still a lot of bad things happening in the city. Did you get any kind of comments like that? You
know, honestly, we haven't. I've gotten so many people who've been just happy that we're shedding a light on some of the really positive things happening here. And I find it interesting when people say, oh, there's so much bad in Detroit. Well, talk about a city like Chicago. I mean, things happen in Chicago, but you also hear about the great things happening in Chicago. So I think it's important to balance the conversation about the city.
When you went to Northwestern, so you've obviously, you know, being in Chicago isn't, you know, it's not something that you don't know about.
Right.
So what, well, I guess the other thing that's funny to me is that every time the special airs, somebody's posting on my Facebook wall, hey, they saw you on TV again. And, you know, what's been, you know, do you have friends that are reacting the same way to it? And are there plans to do more of this?
Well, one, I mean, every time it airs, because I was home over the holidays in Los Angeles, and randomly I would get a message on Twitter that just said, you know, thanks so much for doing this special. You know, I really appreciate what Fox 2 is doing. And all of us have really been inspired by this, you know, I would call it in some ways a franchise. You know, we're going to be doing pieces like this on a regular basis, shining a light on some of the different things happening in Detroit, some of the things you may not know about. And one of the coolest things that's come from this is we've had people emailing saying, hey, I live in the suburbs, but now I want to come downtown and check things out. Or, you know, you showed us, you know, this different place. Can you send me the address? And typically I'll send them more information. And it's cool to see that we've kind of sparked an interest. And it's just such an important, you know, passion for our station. So,
you know, one of the things that's starting to get a lot of talk is, you know, there's new people moving into downtown, and almost this attitude in some circles that downtown's getting all of the attention, and the neighborhoods aren't getting as much attention. Your piece clearly talked about the North End, talked about University Commons, got over to Gratiot, you know, got into Southwest Detroit. Do you see that story just being mostly about downtown, or is there room for more stuff about the surrounding neighborhoods in the city?
I think there's definitely room, and I think it's a mistake to just focus on downtown because there are other things happening. And I think that's a story that's less covered. And I mean, just the things happening like with Kim Tandy off of Livernois, just what they're doing to try to revitalize that section. I think there are a lot of things happening, and we can't, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, essentially.
Yeah. So for you personally, what's that next big story? Or are you working on another specific story for this series? Or
You know, I'm trying to, and this is a call, anybody has a great story, email me, let me know what's going on. But I'm trying to kind of do maybe a story once a week that focuses exclusively on something that's happening that is redefining Detroit. But I don't know what the next big one's going to be. I think that's part of the, that's the coolest part, that I don't know what's coming up. I think that there are a lot of great things happening, and again, if you got an awesome idea, sure to email.
Well, you just covered one that was pretty fascinating to me, the Live Detroit incentives. So it's not just if you work for a particular employer, but you can actually get an incentive to live in the city.
Right. The Live Detroit Fund is operated by Community Next, and it's connected with the Jewish Federation of Metropolitan Detroit. And their whole, the whole idea is that they're going to bring people to Detroit who are also going to bring other people to the city. So kids from, and not just kids, I mean, they don't have an age requirement. They just want to make sure that you, let's say you're from the suburbs or something, you move downtown and you've got to do an event every month that gets people into the city. And that's a great way to reach people. When I heard about it, I just thought, there are all these incentives about, based on where you work. This is based on what you'll bring and whether you'll be a good ambassador. So it was cool to get to meet some of the early recipients of the grant, and they're really excited. They're really passionate. They love the city. They're both, one guy we talked to is moving to Midtown. I think the girl we spoke with, she's looking at Corktown and some other areas. So they're going to bring a lot of people and show them a lot of what they don't normally get to see. So.
Which is cool. And thanks for shedding a spotlight on some of the different things that are happening in the city. Thanks for joining us today, Alexis. Really appreciate it. It's now time where we're talking a little bit, speaking of different events that are happening in the city. We had the chance to catch up a little bit of information on Winterblast, the festival that got kicked off during the Super Bowl when Detroit hosted it. It's now become an annual festival. Here's a little bit deeper look into what's happening this year. What started off as a part of Super Bowl 40 has become a Detroit tradition. Winterblast is coming back this year for its 6th year. There's a lot of changes in store for this year's version. Let's go inside this press conference and see what all the buzz is about. So we're joined by Jay Lambrecht from Fountain Bistro, Bookies. You do a couple of things downtown. What does a festival like Winterblast mean to your business in particular?
Well, it's a lot of fun. I think it offers people an opportunity to experience the restaurant for the first time for those who haven't been down yet. But really, I mean, it's just a great celebration of that downtown area, and hopefully people are going to other restaurants and experiencing them, and it's a great time to just explore the city.
What do you have planned for Fountain Bistro in particular? Because you're right in the epicenter of Winterblast at that location. So have anything special planned?
Absolutely. We've got a great new bar with our renovation. We'll have some outdoor bar locations as well. A fantastic menu that will actually change up for the event. So we'll do some new featured Winterblast items on the menu as well.
For the first time since the inception of the festival several years ago, Metro Detroit creative folks will have an opportunity to design the new official Motown Winterblast logo. While we know that the fame and admiration of your friends and colleagues is reward enough for winning, that won't be it. The winning designer, will receive $1,500 in prizes, including an Apple iPad 2 and a VIP Motown Winterblast package featuring a weekend stay at the Western Book Cadillac, dinner at the Hard Rock Cafe, and more. There will also be prizes for various runners-up. For information on the contest and on the requirements and regulations for designers to submit their logos for consideration, you can visit either marketingassociates.com or winterblastlogocontest.com.
So we're also joined by George Jackson. And wondering, George, from the DEGC, and we're wondering why it's important for Detroit Economic Growth Corporation to be investing time and resources into this festival.
It's a good question because normally we don't get involved in events.
Yes.
But one of the things we notice is that we have a lot of activity in the spring, especially in the summer. And then after Labor Day throughout the winter, there's not a lot of activity, particularly outdoor activity. So we felt that it would be good to have a festival that is in the wintertime, during that period where we didn't have a lot of outdoor events. So we could bring people downtown in the winter months, as opposed to just having them downtown in the spring, summer, and fall.
Since you've got your finger on the pulse of businesses right around here, what do business owners think about having another festival downtown? Is it good for them, or is it getting in the way? I mean, I know that there's always concerns about parking and things like that. What are you hearing from the business?
Well, first of all, there are concerns about parking in every city downtown. Okay, I mean, that's not unique to Detroit, and I'll be happy to manage that problem as long as to have people down here, as opposed to not having them down here.
Right.
So, from that standpoint, the businesses love it because it brings people here. And a lot of them are open longer than they normally are on the days of the festival. They seem to get bigger crowds. Our bars, our restaurants, and other retailers appreciate having people here on days in bigger numbers than what is normal.
Once again, it will be the only weekend that you can skate for free in Campus Martius Park. So there's free skating, a great thing in this economy for families to come out, and that's courtesy of Charter One Bank. There'll be 3 heated tents, 2 of them with music stages and 3 stages altogether. More than 50 entertainment acts and top local talent will again return to the festival. There'll be professional and amateur skating exhibitions at the Winterblast. There will be marshmallow roasting at the Winterblast. There will be an outdoor winter carnival at the Winterblast, and there will be a family stage as well with special readings and great lineup of talent that we'll announce, again in January. We mentioned the Taste of Detroit. There are also places to warm up. There will be comfort zones where you can find heat every 150 feet, and that motto will continue in various building lobbies and heated tents that all kick in, to make it happen.
So this February tradition in Detroit is coming back. It promises to be a lot of fun this year. There's still some details to work out, but with the new logo, plenty of restaurants, and some new corporate support, downtown Detroit's going to be hopping again this year for Winterblast. So Detroit's arts community has been growing for a variety of factors, but there's a ton of world-class talent that calls Detroit home. And for a long time, there weren't always world-class galleries for those artists to be able to show their work in the Motor City. But thanks to people like Simone D'Souza from Review Gallery, that's starting to change. Here's our story from this summer during our Transformation Detroit media briefing. So we're here visiting with Simone D'Souza from Review Contemporary Gallery, and I've got to tell you, what she's doing here is really unique, combining the energy of Midtown Detroit with the artists of the Russell Industrial Center. Let's take a quick look at what she's doing inside. So you opened right as the recession was hitting here in the Willie's Overland Lofts. What made you decide to open here in this location and at that time?
Well, this area, of course, the history, past corridor. This area in Midtown is really the cultural center of the city. So, and being an artist myself, I always had this intention to start a project that was a great channel to show the talent that's in the city. So we have plenty of talent, not as much channels. And there's already a great energy going on in this area. I'm sure you noticed that. It's a fantastic mixed energy. It's a cultural center, so it just, it just seemed to be the perfect space.
The right space at the right time. And there seems to be this resurgence of artists coming back down to this location. And I noticed in your commercial space. You had a few things from artists from the Russell Industrial Complex. What about this area is so attractive to an artist like that, or an artist like yourself?
The area of the gallery or Detroit?
The area of the gallery.
Well, exactly because of the sort of this mix, the synergy of energy that we're having here. I actually have a studio at the Russell Industrial Center, and I've been there for 12 years, so being an artist and having the, sort of like the inside information and where the energy is, but also what's needed. And what we need in Detroit is the entire infrastructure to support artists in their professional careers. So galleries like Review are key to, you know, retaining the talent in the city. And that's really what we need to do. We need to create this entire infrastructure and support and encourage the talent to stay here.
So, what would you say to somebody who's coming down to this neighborhood for the first time? What would you say to them is, this is why they should be here?
Oh, this is not only where the talent is, this is where community is. So they're going to feel a great, friendly energy here. I, for example, know all the small business owners in the area. You know, we meet regularly. People know each other. They greet each other. There is just a constant exchange. So, you know, if you come to this area, not only you're going to see amazing things and have a great experience, not only in the galleries, but also in the restaurants, you're going to feel that warmth, you know, the warmth of the community in Detroit. It's fantastic.
So in this week's installment of Detroit People, Ashley Hennon had the chance to catch up with Karen Majewski, the mayor of Hamtramck, and talk a little bit about Polish heritage. Here's her story.
You know, I grew up knowing that I was Polish, but, you know, I don't know, it was the 60s and 70s, you know, it's like who you are, the culture you're born into, it's an accident of fate, right? And it was really only in the 1980s, in the mid-1980s, that I started to realize, really did a shift in what it meant to me and why it was important. And one of the reasons, there were a confluence of reasons, really, that made that happen at that time in my life. One of them was that my father died and my grandmother died, and so you always start, you know, re-examining your life and thinking about, you know, well, what did these people leave you with, and you know, what was their influence on you? And it changed my life. I mean, I reconnected with family in Poland. I really, you know, came to have a second family and a second home. And really, you know, my life went in another direction. And from there, I went to decided to go to grad school and study ethnicity and immigration. I mean, it really was a turning point in my life because of all, you know, this just confluence of things that seemed unrelated and all came together to make me Polish. And poor Matt, we'd already been together since 79, and this was the mid 80s. So, you know, that's not what he bought, you know. And that's how we ended here, you know. That's really, it changed my life in just profound ways. One thing that I felt really connected with was, you know, a time that didn't exist anymore, and a way of life that for all intents and purposes doesn't exist anymore. And in some ways it's, you know, romantic. You know, I think that one of the themes that runs through my life is saving things that other people overlook, or that other people don't see the beauty in, or, you know, think are obsolete or whatever. And revaluing it, you know, whether it's, you know, a piece of clothing, whether it's, you know, an old, you know, cup, and if it's chipped, all the better, because that means that somebody used it, you know. But because, you know, I like places that are worn around the edges, because they're used and lived in, and you know, that have and that because of that have an authenticity, you know, And yeah, that's what why I always loved Hamtramck. It's funky.
There are a lot of changes that are happening to the Detroit police force, and a lot of rumors circulating about, will precincts close? Won't they close? Are people being laid off? Will they not be laid off? We had the chance to sit down with Chief Ralph Godby and also attend a press conference where he addressed those very issues in pretty great detail.
But ostensibly we're about 1,200 to 1,300 fewer resources than we had really just over 5 years ago. With that backdrop, for us to continue to try to do police work the same way, under the same methodology with fewer resources is simply ludicrous. It would not be wise, and we are not giving our citizens the maximum return on their investment relative to their tax dollars. Policing is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year job. No police precinct or district will ever be closed. What we are talking about is a service delivery model and what services will be provided after 4 p.m. What we will be doing is utilizing our telephone crime reporting unit, fully staffing it so that during the off hours for service to the community or during peak call for service hours, which is 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, we will be utilizing that call center to deal with non-emergency calls for service. It will be fully staffed to the extent that we have done the research as to how many reports we do a day, so we will make sure we have enough personnel there.
It's important for our citizens to understand that we have not done this in a vacuum. We take a look at best practices, not only locally, but across the country. We looked at the city of Southfield, Michigan, Canton, Michigan. We've looked at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we've looked at another major city, Boston, Massachusetts, all of which have some iteration of what we're doing relative to how we deploy resources at peak times. Also, we have employed a Six Sigma black belt to take a look at our process and pick it apart. And we will continue to do this to make sure that at every turn we maximize every resource that the citizens of Detroit have at their disposal relative to police service.
Your Six Sigma black belt, how did you get involved with the police department for this particular initiative in the first place?
Well, actually, it started, like the chief said, about a year and a half ago. Faced with dwindling resources, the chief was a good word for it, smart enough to understand that the Six Sigma methodology can help you to improve efficiency. And he contacted me as a master black belt in Six Sigma to help him with the projects. It actually really started to take hold, the program that is, and the projects, based off of Mayor Dave Bing's conference, or speech, the State of the City address. In that speech, he mentioned 3 or 4 times the idea of fact-based, data-driven methodology, and that's what Six Sigma is. So from the 4 projects that I worked with the department on, all 4 had some measure of success regarding response time, on-scene clear time, arrival time. So it's very beneficial, and it's not the last one.
What are some of the bigger changes that you've been able to start implementing using this methodology?
Well, one of them, one of the projects, one of the solutions was to come up with the idea of better utilization of the TCRU piece.
By getting officers out from behind the desk, maybe having a few in a call center answering these questions, what kind of time savings does that make? Or what kind of savings should the department be able to see?
Well, we've seen in terms of response times reductions anywhere from 2% up to, I believe it was 22% in terms of actual response time reduction. But beyond that, anytime you can speed up the process, that just puts the officer or the squad car, a scout car, back into the field and that increases visibility, which has an impact on reducing crime.
So what's starting off as a pilot project here at the Northeast District, if it works, will expand to the rest of the city with the idea of not closing precincts, but making the work that the officers do within the precincts that much more efficient, putting that many more officers back on the street. So thanks for joining us for the last 29 minutes of Detroit Unspun TV. We have a lot of people that make this the first-class quality broadcast that it is. My thanks to Alexis Wiley from Fox 2 News for joining us, to the folks at Detroit Cafe for letting us use their space, and thanks to Vanessa Denaha for giving me the sweet Detroit threads for Christmas. We really appreciate it. Happy Three Kings Day and buena suerte, Detroit.